jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream. Because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Hey guys and girls, hope we're doing well. Just as everyone is tuning in online, sorry for the delay there and the cut in the video on Facebook Live. For some reason, I cannot see anything on my screen on Facebook. I can see some comments coming through on Facebook, so keep the comments coming through on the B.Invested page there. Just thought I would share a video there from George Carlin. It's called The Big Club. The guy is, he passed away about 10, 12 years ago, and he has some very out there, sort of very candid sort of chats that he does, in the past. So that was a bit of a thing that went viral many years ago before social media blew up, because the guy obviously died a good 12 years ago before any of us had Facebook or YouTube. So with that, I just want to touch on some of the news that's out there this week. As always, yes, I am wearing a collared shirt today, guys, in the B.Invested head office. We just had about a half a dozen staff start this week, doing some induction with them. I was still wearing thongs, yes I was, but I was trying to be a bit of a corporate birchie this week, so I did put some suit on and tried to put the swagger on. So with it, I'm going to get straight into the news. It appears that the Corona scam, they've stopped working with the Corona. You don't hear much about this anymore. It's not a big thing. They're not trying to fear people with that. However, a name, George Floyd, a lot of us may or may not have heard so far. George Floyd was the guy who got murdered the other day by some police officers, and now there's riots all across America. Divide and conquer, as they always say. Keep one group of people in hate of the other group of people, and just very interesting time. So if we look at this year, we've seen some sad things unfold out there globally. If we just look in Australia, around November, December, January, we had 3 months of fires which ravaged through our news and media propaganda outlets. Then we started seeing, before that actually, before about August, September, October last year, we had climate change. We had that Greta girl, that little girl that's probably 20 but looks like she's 15, saying that her childhood was stolen because people drive cars and whatnot, trying to, push agendas through the media. Started seeing the fires for another quarter. Last quarter that we've had the Rona. Don't know, I'm coughing here. We're all going to die from that. Now we're starting to see race wars emerging, rioting and looting. I've seen these things. People post a lot of their opinions and thoughts on, what's happening in the media out there. As the video from George Carlin said, taking away people's rights, liberties, personal freedoms. And if you want to, be in the Australian dream and live the Australian dream, most people have to be fucking asleep to be living that dream. So with it, what is going to come next? What are the entities or people or the vested interests or these groups or the lobbyist groups which benefit from these agendas? Are they agendas? Are they things that are there to keep us distracted? Most importantly, the one thing that I realised throughout every single one of these problems that have occurred in the last 12 months in the media, they've always reverted back to one very common denominator, and that is via stimulus, right? So imagine how many houses got burnt, how many cars got burnt, how many things that would have been insured. Imagine how much money was getting stimulated through the insurance companies being put out there in the marketplace. We're sitting here at a point where money's being printed to cover that. We've got people with their businesses that are now going bankrupt. Money's being paid out for that. I was looking at all the stores in America, and I'm not going to get into too much details. Talk louder, I've been told. I'll try to talk louder. I haven't. I've been looking at the videos of people rioting and looting in New York, smashing into these buildings. Imagine how much stock and inventory has been stolen. One of my mates yesterday showed me a video of a chick running down the road with a cheesecake in her hand because she got an opportunity to steal a cheesecake. And these people are breaking into these places, causing a lot of damage. Once again, a lot more money will have to be printed to pay for this sort of stuff. Just interesting seeing what's out there in the news. What else is interesting in the news, guys? Smash up the likes if you saw my articles on news.com, Daily Telegraph, Daily Mail last week. Good mate over at the Telegraph at news.com, Aidan Devine, wrote a story, published a story, and it's probably the most truest, accurate, and interesting story that I've had out there for a very, very long time. I'm just going to go and look it up now so I can read it to you if you haven't seen it. It is an article which got a lot of coverage, good, bad, or indifferent. Had a lot of haters out there. Saw someone there saying, our mate John, basically I've had a lot of people in the last week. I woke up on Wednesday morning. There was articles out there circulating, Daily Telegraph, the Daily Mail, realestate.com. Basically the article was investor with 200 properties, bagged 6 more homes during the Corona scam and wants more. So for those of you watching over there on Facebook as well. A lot of hate on that. A lot of people saying, look at this silly guy, he's going to go broke, he's going to miss out. He's obviously delusional. Had an older photo of me where I was skinnier, obviously, slimmer in front of the Bentley. And people love to hang shit on me. So it says here, a former Mount Druitt resident, I didn't grow up in Mount Druitt, but I did buy my first properties in Mount Druitt, who already owned more than 200 properties, has snapped up 6 more homes during the Corona scam. Prominent investor Nathan Birch, 35, said he was preparing for another buying spree despite being in $18 million worth of debt because the economic downturn was creating unprecedented property investment opportunities. I'm buying everything I can get my hands on. Nothing compares to the opportunities we're going to get, he said, adding that he hoped to purchase another 20, 30 properties over 2020, which is the goal. Let's go smash up the market and, take advantage of the opportunities. He said he was planning to do this despite having more debt than anyone in Australia. I've got more debt than anyone in this country, guys. That's why I take such a great interest in trying to understand what risks are out there, how I can minimise my risks, and what other sort of alternative strategies I can do to take advantage of certain things in the market. The total estimated value of his properties was more than $50 million, he said. Had an article there about how I bought a $35,000 townhouse. A lot of people ask me about, Nathan, I want a $35,000 townhouse. I bought this $35,000 townhouse. Rents for $450 per week, by the way, guys. I bought that about 7 years ago as a part of a bulk deal, and my clients bought in on the property as well and bought themselves similar sort of deals. Mr. Birch, the founder of investment advisory company called B.Invested, purchased his first round of property shortly after the Sydney housing market went into a tailspin in 2004. He was still a teenager. It was a long time ago, folks. It's in a few of these markets now. He was still a teenager at the time and worked at multiple menial jobs to fund the purchase, but benefited from a weaker market and falling prices in the harbour city, went into a slump. Many of Mr. Birch's subsequent properties were purchased during the GFC in 2008 and 2009. Properties were usually cheap homes in lower income areas such as Mount Druitt or houses in southeast Queensland purchased below market value. They quickly shot up in value after the global financial crisis passed, allowing him to draw the equity out of the properties for use for additional loans on even more properties. There's a picture there, I think it's got my ex-business partner in there, Daniel, walking around a property that had purchased in Western Sydney for $110,000 when everyone thought I was crazy at the time. The only thing I was crazy for by buying this property for $110,000 is that I sold it for $250,000 4 months later, and it's probably worth about $600,000 now. Banks were usually willing to continue giving him loans for new purchase because the properties were cash flow positives. Yes, I did have a strategy, and I still have that same strategy today, almost 20 years on, meaning the rents were higher than mortgage repayments. He also purchased some properties throughout trusts. He said the current conditions were similar to a decade ago when buyers were dropping out of the market, fearing that it was a bad time to become saddled with mortgage debt. This was thinning competition for properties at a time when sellers were becoming increasingly open to negotiate prices. People running from the market were leaving behind excellent deals. Mr. Birch said, I'm really excited. I'm smiling ear to ear. People are saying the property market's going to crash. It's not going to crash. It's going to go up. That's what I've been telling everyone. I'll still stick with the story because that is what is happening. It is what has happened in the past. It's what's happening now. It's what's going to happen in the future. Here's a block of units that I bought in Newcastle. I bought this block of units for $650,000 a while back. I think it's got 14 units in Newcastle. They rent out for maybe like $250,000 a year for me. The serial investor said he was banking on property prices rising in the near future because the government's economic stimulus during the pandemic, which said was akin to printing money. It's not that property is going to be worth that much more. Its money is going to be worth so much less, but the prices will go up, Mr. Birch said. He added that he was not fearful of making further purchases because he didn't expect interest rates, which are at the lowest point on record, to be raised in years. I have so much debt. I don't know anyone else with $18 million worth of debt, but rates won't go up, Mr. Birch said. They can't raise rates because many businesses are in debt. It will destroy the economy. We're going to be stuck on this cheap money for a long time. His views in the market have attracted heavy criticism, with some people have told him to lay off the drugs, he said. People did. A lot of people watching these videos, a lot of people that are watching it on YouTube without faces, like to write crap about me, and I still think that you're lonely and at home in your mum's basement playing with yourself. It doesn't say that in the article, by the way, guys. His opinions also run contrary to those who think that many economists who have also forecast the house market may not recover pre-corona levels for years. Research group CoreLogic recently noted Australian house market is at the cusp of another downturn. So this is just Media Watch. So if you notice in articles, they have to put like the opposite view as well. There's a thing called Media Watch, so it's controlled media out there. However, and this goes on. A lot of you can look up the article. I'm not going to keep reading out my own thing because I've told you guys a lot about this beforehand. But I really appreciate, talking to Aidan. He's a good guy. I've known Aidan for maybe like 10, 11 years. Done lots of articles over the years on different publications that he's worked on. I just seen here a shoe. Hey Nathan, how much money do you need to get started in investing? I just picked up a property today. I picked up 5 blocks of land for people. I'm going to put out a hot deal alert tomorrow. The property is $14,750, right? $1,400 for a block of dirt in Australia. Last one I did a deal like this was $14,300 earlier on this year. And the council rates have come in at $28,000 for the land value. So you can get into properties all different prices. To get into capital cities, if you guys want one of these type of properties, flick over an email to my office, send us a DM, flick over an email to my office at admin@binvested.com.au and put in there $14,750 block of land, and my team will be in contact with you tomorrow. To get into properties, you could get into property, in Sydney, picking up properties for $280,000, $300,000 at the current point in time, 2-bedroom units. Picking up in Brisbane for $150,000. I picked up one the other day for someone for $115,000. I think that she might, be on here watching. I'm just seeing someone here wrote renovation grant. We'll talk about renovation grant soon. But in capital cities, I'm picking up properties for $150,000, $200,000, $250,000. $300,000. So you probably need sort of a good price to get in the market, good deposit to have saved up in this market is about $30,000 to $40,000 will get you into the market. Had someone at the start of the year that had 45,000 saved up, and she's now onto her fourth property. She had 0 properties to start at the start of this year, and now she's onto her fourth one. So there's people out there taking advantage of this market, the opportunities that are out there. There's a lot of people that are going to be sad and depressed, in the market moving forward. But so just getting back to the articles, really good article there. Thanks, Aidan, for sharing my viewpoint. It's rare that a lot of people in the media will back up what I'm talking about with currencies collapsing. It can be a controversial topic. I got a lot of hate from that article. I felt, entertained to write back to a lot of these trolls that are out there. I trolled the trolls, which was pretty funny. And these trolls were saying he's going to go broke, all this sort of stuff. These people have been sad, poor, miserable people, for many, many times over. Now, I've heard a lot of it over the years. I don't care about the opinions of people. I'm taking action in the market because there's opportunities galore out there. So I'm going to read you some articles which will identify and sort of clarify what I've been saying over the course of the last 3 years. Right? If you remember 3 years ago, we're talking about the global financial depression. It wasn't called Corona or the other C word with the numbers in it, because I can't say that with the numbers in it. Just won't come out of my mouth. But it was called the global financial depression. Looking at opportunities that were going to be out there in the marketplace, they are just printing straight through this financial crash this time around. We've got here an article from news.com. The heading of the article is RBA boss Philip Lowy. Yeah, we've got to know this Lowy here. Philip Lowe on how he can print money out of thin air, right? You don't get told this stuff at school, folks. You don't get told how money is created. You don't get told that money is not what you use. You use currency, you use debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme money to purchase things. It says here, Reserve Bank boss Philip Lowe is shedding light on Australia's economic recovery from the coronavirus scamdemic at an inquiry today. Dr. Lowe, Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, APRA, which basically came into effect the property market going back 3 years ago, when everyone started seeing the cracks in the market. APRA was the thing that totally screwed the market 3 years ago. The market did go through a correction. The correction happened 3 years ago, and the stimulus packages are here to push the market up and take it to the next level at the moment. It says here, so APRA and ASIC, James Shipton, appearing via video conference before the Corona Committee hearing. Wow, these guys are buying their own bullshit, not even turning up face to face it, like those trolls that were online the other day. I asked one economist, his name is John, I'm not going to give him too much credit, he knows who he is. He called out bullshit, saying this guy can't own 200 properties and then I'm going to go broke. And this guy's trying to, spruik fear constantly, and his fan said that he should get me on their show to grill me, basically, and have a debate about it. So there's nothing to debate about, and I would love to have the opportunity to go onto John's network to be able to talk about this opportunity. So if you're watching John, or if any of you that are John's mates out there watching this, you know who he is, and he's. I'm happy to have a chat with him and his mates on a video, on a Facebook Live or whatever. So it says here, asked to explain where the RBA got its money from, Dr. Lowe explained he could create it out of thin air. Right? The beauty of this central banks are unique entities and they can create money, he said. We're the only one entity in the country that can create money just out of nothing. Right? Well, you're not, right? You're not. There's other people that can create money out of thin air too. But, in today's day and age, I guess these guys are. They're the only people that are regulated too, and they're just the ones that are printing money to give to the governments around the world. And it says here, so that's very important to the governance around the process. Around the process is very strong. Obviously, that could be abused if you just created money out of thin air to finance government expenditure without checks and balances. Senator Patrick responded, "It sounds like a good job." Wow, what a great job, just printing money, just adding extra digits on a centralized ledger. That's why I talk about cryptocurrencies, because it's a decentralized ledger, and that's what I was referring to when other people can print money nowadays as well. Dr. Lowe has been talking about the need to restore business and consumer confidence, while noting the ultimate key to recovery hinges on the development of medical treatment for the virus. Like, come on, stop spreading this shit. We're all fine. Everyone's going to be fine, right? Everyone's going to be fine. He told a forum last week that the faster the restrictions can be lifted safely, the sooner and stronger the economic bounce back will be, and the less economic scarring will be taking place. It doesn't matter if everything returned to normal today, the economy is fucked, right? They've fucked the economy. It can be fixed, but it will come at the cost of the currency that we use. The Aussie dollar will be in trouble from this, and as will all other fiat debt-based currencies around the world, such as the US dollar, the yuan, whatever country your denominated currency is. So the Finance Minister Matthias Cormann backed the call for the economy to be restored back to normal as soon as possible. He said the government had planned for the worst 2 months ago, but Australia was now close to eliminating the spread of the virus cases. No, you just printed money to fix up the fucking GFD, the global financial depression, which will have greater ramifications. We, of course, are working now transitioning out of the period of temporary support measures in the economy, told the ABC. In that context, of course, we will be announcing a whole series of measures, including and in particular through the budget on October the 6th, to maximise the strength of our economy recover. I'm seeing lots and lots of questions here. I'm hoping that I can go back through on Instagram and answer these for you guys. So actually, before I move on to my next article, I'm going to answer some of these. When am I getting to 300 properties? Soon, hopefully. If all of these stimulus packages help me out as much as what I hope they will, and I think everyone will see, we'll be getting there a lot quicker than what I thought. Renovation grant, I'm going to get onto grants very shortly. We're going to see more stimulus packages, and I have some very, very, off the record sort of conversations about where stimulus package will be coming. Modify your existence. You guys, buyer's agents, yes. I have a buyer's agency. I have Australia's, it's probably the third buyer's agent in the country. This is like 11 years ago I started the business. Nowadays everyone pretends to be a buyer's agent. There's lots of people out there trying to be buyer's agents. I locate and negotiate deals on other people's behalf, as well as at B.Invested we do a lot of other types of things as far as finance, legal, accounting and whatnot. When do you predict the next property boom? I can buy again next June. I hope I'm not too late. Look, there's always going to be opportunities. I've been buying properties every year since 2003. That's when I bought my first property at the age of 18. There's been opportunities throughout every single market. Even throughout the last boom, there was other markets that were crashing. So don't feel like you're going to miss out, but there is a lot of opportunity out there in the market at the moment. What have we got here? Where are we? Hey Bircho, you're a real inspiration, mate. Been watching a long time, but even more these days for obvious reasons. Learning a lot from you, mate. Question: what are your best performing capital growth areas for a 400 grand budget? First timer here. Also, if you need one of your old rides restored or painted, it can help you in any way. Maybe that old roll you've been tucked away, Josh. I'll let you know about that. There's a few cars that are in there. I've got a shed with cars in. With it, as far as the properties that I purchase and finding in the marketplace, 400 grand, just depending on what your position is, what you're trying to achieve. There's many variables there. 400 grand, I'd be sticking towards the Sydney market because there's a lot of opportunities. If you're going to spend all that 400 grand in one purchase, I'd want to see it personally in Sydney. If you were going to split it up into multiple amounts, you could buy in Brisbane maybe 3 properties for 400 grand. If it's in the Gold Coast, maybe 2 properties for 400 grand. But yeah, best if you've got questions as far as, strategy and whatnot, reach out, flick us a message here. Happy to have a chat and work out strategy for what to purchase. Moving on to some really, really exciting news. Why the property market will not collapse and why we're going to see one of the biggest booms in the history of Australia. We've got interest rates now at 25 basis points. It's 0.25%. This time last year it was 1.5%. If it went back to where it was last year, it would have to go up 600% to get back to its old interest rate level. And that's just the start of it, as well as all the stimulus packages, JobKeeper, JobSeeker, the fact that we've got rental yields out there where no companies are paying yields and returns at the moment. Everyone's looking for yield in a failing economy, in a failing system. There's properties out there that are paying sort of 10% yields still in the market, and that's why I'm seeing some good benefits there. But one of the biggest changes to the property space is about to occur. I predict that there'll be news coming out in the later part of June, which there's been talks about it, but it hasn't come into fruition yet. It says here on 31st of May 2020, this article, which was on news.com, government is set to unveil the new home buy grants across the board to prop up a failing construction sector. No, it is a stimulus package in order to get money flowing through the system. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but if we look at the $440 billion that has been printed off over the course of the last 3 months, that $440 billion, if that was to be put into the bank accounts and to work with fractional reserve banking, basically with the bank, if they were to take a $1,000 deposit from someone, it means the bank can automatically print out another $9,000. So if it's got $1,000 in the bank, you can print out 9 times more than that money and lend it out as a loan. So if we have printed $440 billion to put out there in the economy, it goes through the banking system because not many people are using cash nowadays because, we're going to die from the Rona. So if that is the case, $440 billion worth of money injected in the economy at a 10% base to work from, it means that the banks could print out another almost $4 trillion worth of currency to inject into the system, and voila, here we have a new booming market. This is something greater to throw on top of that, which reads, the next phase of the government stimulus is designed to revive the economy in the wake of the coronavirus crisis. Will focus on housing construction, it has been reported. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is preparing to unveil a mammoth new home buyer scheme that will be available for all Australians, not just first-time home buyers. There has been talks that this will be released around the 20th of June, which will be around $20,000 to $50,000 first home grants for everybody. So anyone wanting to buy a property, which is new, will most likely be getting between $20,000 and $50,000. Imagine getting $50,000, right? 50 grand to buy a fucking house, right? If that ain't a Ponzi scheme, I don't know what is, right? So when people say the property market's in a bubble, it's not in a bubble, and it's got a lot more manipulation to be had against it. But at this point, they're going to totally destroy the dollar, totally destroy our currency, and we'll have nothing left at all to play with. So it goes on to read, this will be across the board, not just for first home buyers. The government looks to prevent a 30 to 50% drop in residential construction, right? So we've talked about JobKeeper, JobSeeker, JobMaker, and here we've got Job Ponzi scheme here, trying to keep tradies, sparkies, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, gyprockers, tilers, roofers, whoever else is involved, painters, carpet layers, everyone installed into jobs. There's a reason, I know why they're doing this. I talked about it many, many times in the last 3 years, which is that we need to we need to open the borders and bring in lots and lots of new tax layers. We need more people working in the system and try and keep our economy afloat, and that's how we're going to fill these houses up, guys. Basically they are going to pay and bribe people to buy property. Imagine if a property is already going for 800 grand, right? And interest rates are 5%, now they're 2.5%. On the same rental return, I spoke about this in a few videos ago, on the same rental return, you could on the same mortgage repayment, sorry, your property could go from a 5% down to 2.5%, and then the property price could double and you'll still be at the same sort of repayment level. Imagine now if they give you the deposit, like 50 grand, 20 grand, like these are massive amounts. You can go buy a property for 200 grand and get $50,000. Go buy a property for 400,000, get $20,000. Like these are massive amounts of money that they are just printing and injecting into the system. It's crazy time, guys, crazy times. But this isn't even the start of it, right? I'm going to go on to an article that got sent to me. I got two of these articles sent to me this morning from the Sydney Morning Herald over here. And it goes on to read, go below zero. I used to do a hashtag race to zero, alluding to the fact that interest rates are going to go zero. We're almost at zero. We're at 25 basis points. It's going to go negative. It goes one of us, but this Philip Lowy or whatever the fuck his name is, he said very clearly there will be no more rate cuts. So we'll just print more money and give it to people just for the sake of it. But he said there'll be no more rate cuts. We will not. He said this time last year, he was saying that interest rates were going up. I very clearly said between 90 to 120 days in February 2019. And one video for saying it, I shared it on Facebook, shared it on YouTube, and I put it was inside my mentoring program. We talked about everything that's happening now. We said that between 90, not before 90, and not after 120 days. So that 30-day gap, we would see the first rate cut, which happened, right? We hear it where all the fundamentals are off the table at the moment. We've been told 2 months ago that the RBA will not be dropping another percent from the interest rate, but now we're getting articles out here. This is what the article says. One of the nation's most senior economists has called on the Reserve Bank to consider negative interest rates, drive down the Australian dollar, and encourage local business to invest their savings in money-making investments. Right? How else are we going to do it? We're going to have to manipulate our currencies. We're going to have to fucking kill our currency. Having the Aussie dollar, it's not going to be in the same sort of shape that it was and that we're all used to. It's not just the Aussie dollar, it's all currencies around the world, but this is Australia, so this is why we're talking about it. Despite signs that Sydney and Melbourne property markets are withstanding the coronavirus pandemic, so apparently this article, the last one said, we're going to see massive crashes, and now we're going to see this one here says that the markets are withstanding the pandemic shutdown. The Westpac chief economist, Bill Evans, said the RBA board should use its Tuesday meeting to consider taking the official cost of money into negative territory. We're not there yet, guys. We're going to see negative interest rates in the fourth quarter 2020. That's my prediction. That's my thoughts. People are asking me. I am navigating like I'm on Bird Box and I've got the blindfold on and I can't see what's going on. I'm navigating with unconventional, I'm navigating with Braille now. Just like my screen here on Facebook, I can't see anything on the screen, so I apologise if it's not an angle or whatever. It's just not showing. I'm working on a crappy old laptop because I unfortunately broke my new one. But yeah, they've asked for the RBA, the Westpac boss have said to the RBA should use its Tuesday meeting to consider taking the official cost of money into negative territory. Here we are talking about negative interest rates. And we're not just talking about negative interest rates, guys. We have got the Westpac boss begging, pleading, asking for the RBA to make us negative interest rates. As recently as last week, the RBA Governor Philip Lowe said it was highly unlikely the bank would follow the lead countries such as Sweden, Denmark, and Japan. So now we've got 3 countries which are in negative interest rates, taking their rates below zero. New Zealand's central bank is also increasingly likely to consider negative interest rates. So now I've got New Zealand, our fucking neighbour across the road, dropping interest rates down to negative. The RBA, which is expected to hold its official rate on a record low, 25 basis points this month, is predicting the economy to contract by up to 10% in the June quarter, unemployment to remain elevated for the next 2 years, and inflation to stay subdued even longer. They have to throw the whole kitchen sink. So we've got job seeker, job keeper, interest rates at 0% going into negative. Let's pay people 50 grand to buy a property. You throw all these incentives, eventually someone is going to be like, okay, I'll take this shit up, right? They're going to take this shit up and they're going to start spending this money. When this money starts going through the system, that's when we're going to start seeing the hyperinflation. That's where we're going to be at, and that's where the party's coming to. Let's have some water. To help the economy by enabling business and mortgage holders to borrow at extremely low cost, they would also take pressure off the Aussie dollar, which on Monday reached its highest level since March at 67 cents. A serious case can be made for the RBA to consider further cuts and entering the negative territory for the cash rate if it becomes apparent that the economy is deteriorating even more than it's currently expected, he said. A small open economy with significant foreign liabilities would certainly see a substantial improvement in the competitiveness of the currency with further rate cuts when other major markets are anchored at their effective lower bounds. Negative rates could also help the RBA meet its 2 to 3% inflation target. The Melbourne Institute of Monthly Inflation Gauge Monthly showed that prices falling by 1.2% in May takes annual inflation just to 0.1%. Its measure of underlying inflation dropped by 0.3% to be 0.5% over the year. The RBA has already warned inflation is likely to turn negative because of these falling demand and policy interventions such as free childcare. At the start of this scandemic shutdown, there were fears of house prices tumbling by more than 10% in what would likely amount to a huge hit to the property market. But CoreLogic, why does every article refer to CoreLogic? I just want to pause there, right? It always refers to CoreLogic because Media Watch demands that it has someone to have a biased opinion here, that we have a two-sided opinion. But why? Why did CoreLogic buy out RP Data? Why do we have these same actors which are there commenting on every news article? They're on the TV, they're on here, they're on here. Why can't anyone else verify? Why can't anyone else say this? Because it's controlled media, controlled propaganda, and it's just a very manipulated world we live in. People think I lost my plot a few years ago when I started talking about this, but it's evident, guys. It's evident. Look at the signs. Nationally, the dwelling values were down by 0.4%, although there were some outliers with Canberra up 0.5% and Hobart lifting 0.8%. Like those places have got nothing going on anyway. Despite the fall, house values this year are still up 4.2% in Sydney and 1.6% in Melbourne. Over the past 12 months, Sydney values have climbed by 15.6%, while in Melbourne they still 12.2% in front. Let's just look at that line, right? Before they go to CoreLogic again. Despite this, what's it say here? Over the past 12 months, Sydney values have climbed 15.6%. 15.6%. We've seen house prices up in the course of the last 12 months. Right? Why? Because the market fucking collapsed in 2017. The market recovered in June, July, August, September 2019, and the market took off with all of the quantitative easing measures that were done in 2019. It says here, eventually government stimulus will wind back to borrower repayment holidays, which will expire. In the absence of these policies, housing values could come under some additional downward pressure if economic conditions haven't picked up towards the end of the year. Very interesting they comment on that due to the fact that what's going to happen when all of these insolvent companies start showing their ugly heads in the later part of this year. There's another Sydney Morning Herald article here. It says it's an opinion piece. It says the pandemic is the defining jewel of conflicting economic models. The US Federal Reserve is pouring high octane fuel in a bed of dry tinder. So are the rest of the G10 central banks. All it will take is spark of the post-corona recovery to set off an inflammatory asset boom, followed by a surge of consumer price inflation in 2021 and beyond. Oh, wow. The media is starting to come out and talk about what we've been talking about for the last 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. I've only been talking about this on Facebook for the last 6 months, but I've been talking about it for 3 years, whether it be on the mentoring program, whether it be in YouTube world or whatnot. It says here that the delayed effect of so much latent monetary stimulus flows through the economy. That is the ever more vocal verdict of the monetarists fraternity on both sides of the Atlantic. They're now at intellectual daggers drawn with the new Keynesian establishment in charge of economic policy in most OECD states. Central banks are worried about deflation. My worry is that we're heading for double-digit inflation. Inflation, deflation. We are in the deflationary cycle. It is very bad for us to have a debt-based fiat monetary Ponzi system. To have deflation, it will cause a lot of havoc out there. They need to create inflation, but how they're steering themselves away from, in the deflation side of things, they're going to, it's going to be like oversteering a car too fast around the corner or whatever. It's going to fly off and head off in the opposite directory, and there's no way of saving it. Like, if the wheels are off the ground, you're flying through the air, you can turn the wheel around as much as you want. It's not going to do anything. So that's where the economy is at the moment. Ultimately, it's going to end up in hyperinflation sort of territory. We're not going to see hyperinflation initially. We might see high levels of inflation, but they're going to have to pour so much more stimulus into this marketplace. We're going to lose the currency. It says here, central banks are worried about deflation, double-digit inflation, particularly in the US, where the surge of money has been the most extreme, said Professor Tim Gondon from the Institute of International Monetary Research. This is nothing like the period after 2008 when the banking system was crippled and we needed QE to stop the money supply contracting. I don't know what the sequence will be over the next few quarters, but the crushing evidence of monetary history is that the stimulus is going to be inflationary in the end. That is exactly what been talking about for the last 3 years. Deflation, GFD, hyperinflation. If people think that hyperinflation is going to be great, it will be good for some. It will be very, very painful of many, many people. We're going to have too much money chasing too few goods and too few assets. A lot of this is going to flow into the markets at first. A year or two later, we'll see the inflation. The implicit reproach is that the global authorities have overreacted to the pandemic and that most central bankers are by now political captives, bound and gagged. Monetarists say the sheer scale of QE and fiscal stimulus will overwhelm the economic cost of corona shock under any plausible scenario. Professor Cogdon said that the broad money supply in the US was growing at the fastest rate in recorded peacetime history. The growth rate of reconstructed M3 has been running at an annualized rate of 80% since mid-March. It has been less extreme in the Eurozone, the UK and Japan, but is still unprecedented in the post-war era. Mr. Ward, critics dismissed the monetary signals, the grounds that the effect was being offset by commensurate fall in the velocity of money, in a sense rendering it inherent. But it's only happening because people are in lockdown, he said. Once they are out, they're going to start spending again. Velocity will rise again and monetary creation will be almost certainly proved permanent. We are stuck in this point where we are printing money. Money will just need to be kept printing to keep the system alive. The monetary system is on life support. If we were to think about a hospital right now, fuck the corona ward, we're looking at palliative care, right? Currencies are in palliative care. People don't realise yet. They've got the cough, they're like, all that sort of stuff, but they're going to palliative care. That's where the economy is heading at this point in time. Chetan Iyer from Morgan Stanley says a deep V-shaped rebound is already picking up speed as fiscal stimulus begins to hit and earns. The bank is now outwardly bullish, so is Goldman Sachs. The counter view is that the Fed is the corona shock will do lasting structural damage. It will also take several years for firms to rebuild their balance sheets and for jobs to replace those that have been permanently lost. There will be money being printed and ending in the coffers of lots and lots of different businesses. Before this Facebook Live, I was on a strategy session. I was talking to someone, and there's people out there that are doing very, very well out of this. Very, very well. People that are doing very bad as well. And money will flow in all different sort of segments of the markets. My final thing to talk about, I see someone here sent me an article here. The banks are now, someone just sent me an article as we're talking here, the banks are now, Combank is now switching from principal and interest to interest only without any sort of proof or refinancing. So these are the policy changes that we're going to start seeing. I haven't read the article, I just saw the heading as it came up on my screen. We will see the ability for people to refinance their mortgage without any application. Sure, we'll just set it to interest only for the next 5 years or the next 3 years, get you through this period, whatever the case may be. There is so much stimulus that's going to come through this market, it's going to totally collapse all those fears that everyone has. The only difference is are you taking advantage of the opportunities that sit in the market today, or are you sitting there fearful, scared, and shitting bricks? Looking at the opportunities out there, like this is just like me talking about some of the cool stuff I'm working on at the moment. As I said beforehand, blocks of land. I just did 5 blocks of land today, $14,750. Deals are out there. You can buy a Bitcoin at $14,750, or you can buy a block of land, or you can build a property in Australia where the council rates have a land value of $30,000. Looking at other sort of properties that are out there, just a block of 7 units in New South Wales, which is really, really cool. I'm not going to go further into that. It's if you're interested, let me know. Units are $75,000 a piece. There's what else I'm working on. With some properties in Sydney around the 290 to 310,000 price range. Properties that were selling for 400,000 going back 24 months ago, picking up for 340,000 in Sydney. In Brisbane, picked up one for 115,000 last week, went for $220 per week. Did one on the weekend, off-market purchase, which the last one in the block sold for 310 2 months ago. I picked it up for 263,000. Rents for $400 a week, and it's about 20 years old. It's a townhouse. Deals are out there. Looking at the next phase of stimulus, as I said beforehand, these properties are going to be getting the first homeowner grant. Not the first homeowner grant. Everyone's getting a grant for buying the properties. For new properties will be that'll come out later this month from my sources that I've spoken to. I believe that we will see a potential of a rail project, a fast, high-speed rail project. I have personally been buying up some assets in anticipation of that over the last little while. I have done a lot of research into the potential rail roads that are going throughout the East Coast, and I think that we'll see these smart cities emerge. I think that we'll start seeing regional hubs emerge for immigration to flow through this country, for us to be able to spend some of this money to try and starve off. If the government's just spending the money, it's going to have very low yields, very low returns. However, it's going to be infrastructure. It's going to improve the benefit of Australians and be able to, grow and leave, legacies for future decades to sort of grow upon. So I believe that we'll start seeing, high-speed rail networks start to come through. On that note, I'm mindful that Instagram is going to pause shortly and cut me off. So I'm going to answer a few questions here on Instagram. Ask any questions through. I'm going to run out of the questions in Instagram, and I'll answer them now, but if you've got other ones, flick them through as private messages. Strapping stamp duty, as bad as an introduction of yearly land tax could replace it. I'd rather pay once up in front rather than having to pay an annual stamp duty. That is ridiculous in my opinion. It will allow people to get into property easier, which will put a higher pressure for the property prices to rise. However, paying an annual stamp duty is really, really ridiculous. Fuck low, yep. Fuck the central banks. Birchie, where do you get your info from? I'm constantly researching, things out there in the marketplace. I put all of my content on Birchfeed. If you guys are not on Birchfeed, I hopped on there beforehand. We're at 999 subscribers. I've been so excited to see it's hit 1,000. I've opened up for free for everyone. I was charging $1 a day, $365 a year. None of you even have to be fearful of being a tight ass. You don't even have to pay a cent. I won't ask you for your credit card. I won't ask for anything. Just go to birchfeed.com, subscribe, get in there, and my team will send you the link and add you in there straight away. So I'll post a lot of my information in there. Um, as you predicted, stocks will crash in September. Do you see a V-shaped recovery like we've seen this year during the corona? Look, the reason why prices are going up in stock markets and share markets out there around the world is due to the fact that the central banks around the world, as we've just been talking about, are printing so much money. And they're actually buying up the balance sheet. They're buying up the assets straight out of the ASX or out of the Dow Jones. Right? This is complete fraud and manipulation. These guys are just printing money, buying assets to stop the economy from falling. They're not allowing the market to collapse. Right? So they're taking assets out of the market, out of circulation, and have an artificial high sort of price. So same thing's going to happen to property. Everything's going to get bailed out. But the one thing that they can't do is they can't keep bailing it out unless they kill their currency, which is what's going to happen eventually at the end of this cycle. Sam, fixed or variable, which would you choose? Personally, I am leaving my properties on variable because I believe that we will see further rate cuts. This is not financial advice. If you do have a mortgage, I have got the most sophisticated team of finance experts out there in the whole market, right? So if you have a property, you own a property, you're thinking of buying a property, I'm not just a crazy guy that talks about random stuff on Facebook, right? I have really, really good people out there in the marketplace that work on this stuff on a daily basis. So if you'd like to know further or get some more structured advice on that, please flick us a message. Flick my team an email at admin@binvested.com.au. If you're interested in those properties, say you're interested in the properties. If you're interested in finance or getting my team to have a look at your finance and your loans, reach out to my team. My finance strategists, they're very senior, they're very structured. They've helped me get to 200 properties in my portfolio. So if they've been able to help me do that, then what can they help you guys do? So fixed or variable, mine is still variable. I will be fixing my loans in the future, but at this point in time, it is not a time to fix my loans. Where can we see the deals? Dave, if I can just ask you, mate, if you can just flick me an email, my email address, just flick me an email personally and I will get something over to you. Just let me know which deal it is that you liked or where you're at, and yeah, I'll go from there. So what's the starting dollar, Jeremy? What is the starting dollars that you recommend? As I said beforehand, sorry, I'm seeing messages that are afterwards as well. What's the starting dollars that I recommend? People are getting the property for as little as $25,000, $35,000 sort of deposit. When I buy properties, they're neutral cash flow, they're below market value, and I like to use 20% deposits. If you were to use a 5% deposit on a 100 grand property, you would only need $5,000. But I don't recommend that. Not that I give financial advice on Facebook Live or Instagram Live or YouTube or wherever this is streaming to. However, you can get into properties for as little as 5 or 10k. But as always, I like to look at I'm just having a look at other questions coming through. As little as $30,000 would be a really good starting point for a 20% deposit on a $150,000 property. What is Birchfeed and what does it contain? Go to birchfeed.com. I can sit here all day and explain it, but I want to get through questions and answers and help out the community. At birchfeed.com, there's a big page, a website page, talks about what it is. I have a video on there. All you have to do is enter in your details and you get it for free. Like, I'm not going to ask for your credit card. Couldn't be bothered selling it for $1 a day to anyone. Don't need anyone's credit card details. Just go and have a look at it for yourself. A lot of people are giving good feedback on it, which I'm very humbled by because I spend a lot of time watching content, researching stuff, and putting my research out there. Who in your team do we need to talk to about taking the next steps? Need to have some water here. With it, just reach out to my admin team, admin@binvested.com.au. Just mention in the subject line and put a little bit of an email on what you're trying to do. And one of my skilled team will be in touch, one of my investor relation team will be in touch to help get you on the next steps. When I do locate the properties, negotiate the properties, I run my investment firm at B.Invested very different to any other of these all these property companies, and there's going to be these new property companies that come out. And just remember it, like probably 6 months from now, we're going to see a whole new wave of all these property gurus selling all these shiny things and whatever. At B.Invested, I run my office like a family office. I help people build intergenerational wealth, and that's why I'm very unorthodox compared to other sort of firms out there. So I work very closely. I locate the deals, negotiate the deals, and work one-on-one with my investors to make sure that they build that right portfolio. From the aspect of building out that portfolio, I'll be working with you on that front. Buyer's agency fee, can that be paid off over time if needed? Yes. We have payment plan options. I charge a fee. I don't get paid from developers or slimy sort of management companies or whatever that pay you to sell properties. I charge a fee. With that fee, normally it's paid up front. However, we do have a payment plan option. So just reach out to my team and they can help you on that front. I have enough for a large deposit but can't work due to disability and can't get a loan. Any ideas? Reach out to my office. Sorry to hear about your problems that you've got there. There's lots of different ways that we can help different people. Happy to have a look at your position. If you want to flick over an email or a message, I can have a look at your position, give you some pointers, and give you some feedback on different options on how you could possibly move forward. Adam, what is the largest rental yield on the property that you source for your customers? I've purchased a 70% per annum rental return on a property beforehand. 70% rental return. On average, though, it's about 7 to 10%. The 70% rental return as a yield, there is, the higher the rental return, like if it goes into 70 or 80% or 60%, it is you generally got other sort of problems, warts and issues on it. Last question that I've got here, this Instagram live video will end for a second and I'll start a new video, so make sure to tune back in. It's just gone over the hour point. It says here, can you invest in New Zealand? Yes, recently worked out how I can help New Zealanders invest in Australia. If you are in New Zealand, you're in the New Zealand community, I know that the New Zealanders love following what I do and try to replicate in New Zealand. I can help New Zealanders buy in Australia. It's an awesome time to be doing so. Feel free to hit up my team and we'll work out a strategy on how we can get into buying from New Zealand in the Australian market. So on that note, this one has ended. I'm going to go to Instagram here, up to Facebook, share to my story. About to start the next part of the live up. Scott, do you still see the likelihood of negative rates this year in Australia? Your ASX futures chart isn't looking like it is based on how you've been predicting previously. Correct, Scott? For those of you that are watching in Birchfeed, I always post my 30-day interbank cash rate futures chart. It is not working anymore. My crystal ball is murky. The fundamentals are off the table because this is a completely manipulated debt-based fiat money scheme that we've got at the moment. Do I still expect to see negative interest rates this year? I believe in the last quarter of this year. I mentioned that a little bit earlier on in this video. Nikki, hi Nathan, hoping you can share your views on crypto. Looks like both Alts and BTC have had a run up together in this last run. Look, crypto, I saw it this morning. Crypto took off for a bit of a moonshot, like 10% sort of returns in the day, 7% returns in the day. As for types of crypto, I should actually do a video specifically on it. It's been a long while since I did. I used to do a lot of videos over at B Decentralized Facebook page, but I haven't been putting on there for a long while just because I've been so busy, with different areas of the business. As I said to you guys beforehand that weren't tuning in earlier, got the collared shirt on. I've just had induction with 6 new staff. I've got 4 that are in the office at the moment, and a couple of other ones that are from remote, and been in lots of meetings, and thought I'd wear the jacket. I even had a tie on yesterday, still with thongs on and not shoes, because I've made a goal not to wear shoes not even once in 2020. So if you've got a wedding upcoming and I've got an invite to it, I won't be wearing shoes. We've got a funeral coming up. That's hopefully you don't, but I won't be wearing shoes. I won't be wearing shoes this year. But yeah, but it's been really, really busy. So I haven't posted on B Decentralized for those of you that are watching over on B Decentralized. But I'm trying to get as much info as I can out to everyone. But I will do a video specifically on crypto sometime soon. Andrew, the fake news stops and props a dime from causing suicides to trying to cause a race war, sick and demented people. Correct, Andrew. There's some really, really shit stuff happening out there in the media. The people that I see that are fearful, I know lots of people in my life. Some people are very fearful of what's happening out in the media. There's people that are excited what's happening in the media. I feel bad. Like I try to waken up and red pill as many people as I can. It's a bit hard. Some people are too sort of indoctrinated into the media. But yeah, like it's important to have good communities out there to be able to help people overcome the sort of the positions out there of the news. But the thing I'd like to know is how many people have been domestic violence, how many people have had alcohol issues, how many people have had drug issues, how many people have had depression, how many people have had suicide over this period of time. That all this fear is coming out. The fear is worse than the deaths of 100 people in Australia. So Ross, being told I stare at my phone too much. I don't know if you're looking at this too much. Apologies if I keep you too entertained on the information, or if Birchfeed's keeping you. Joseph, the amount of hate that I copped in the comments from the articles the other day, there was lots and lots of hate on the internet. The hate that is out there, I feel sad for these people. I literally, genuinely feel sad for these people, which are literally going to waste another decade of their life, right? I was thinking about the other day, I'm going to create this calendar. I saw an inspiration on, it was like some Facebook ad or something like that, which had a calendar of 4,000 weeks, right? If you think about it, I remember like years ago, there was this guy, he's a cricket player. I don't follow cricket, I don't follow sport, but some guy who's like 20 years old, I think his name was Phil Hughes, got hit in the head with a cricket ball at like 100 k's an hour, broke his neck, died, right? This guy, he was like 20 years old. And I thought to myself, 20 years old, this guy is 1,000 weeks old, right? 52 weeks in a year, 50 weeks, 2 weeks times 20 is like 1,040 weeks, right? At 20 years old, you have 1,000 weeks. If you are blessed to live to 80 with a healthy life, that's pretty cool. Live to 100, even greater. A lot of people die earlier, right? But if you live to 80 on average, and you get 4,000 weeks in your life, right? In a year of 52 weeks, how many days, weeks, months, years are you wasting for not being able to be free and being able to do things that you want and being able to live life on your terms, right? Like I ask people, all the new staff that have started in the business this week, I've asked them, what would you be doing if money wasn't an issue? Where would you be spending and directing your time, your energy, your efforts? What are the things you want to be doing? And I guess that's what people should be doing in life, is working out where they're trying to travel to, what are they trying to do, right? And trying to be working towards that. People don't question where does money come from. People don't question why do I keep doing the things that I do to chase my tail. Like personal liberty and freedom. That's why I try and teach. I'm very different and very unorthodox to all the other sort of property people out there and investment people that are out there. It's simply due to the fact that I'm free from that. I'm free from the constraints of having to do what I want, from having to not being able to do what I want. There was a lot of people that were hating on me last week. I got jaded by some of it. It's pretty funny. Like I've never sort of messaged them, but from that aspect, I had like hundreds of people know who I was on the internet, on these Facebook pages and different groups, because they saw this guy and he was like saying "fuck you," right, and calling people out for their bullshit. And there's going to be a whole pile of people with the wrong mindset, and that's why I feel sad, like really, really sad for them, because they're going to miss the opportunity. They're going to miss the perspective of here is a decade that they can be living life on their terms and doing the things that they want to be doing. But instead, they're going to be stuck doing their job. So people can hate on what I have to say, and that's fine, right? Everyone's entitled to opinion because it's a free world. Try to be a free world, but it's a lot of hate. I feel sorry for them. They hate what they can't beat. Exactly. I don't know. Right? There's like it's not a race. I think everybody should be racing themselves to be doing their personal best, be performing at their best, be achieving the things that gets them to where they want to be. Investing in real estate in a market economy that's still inflated while the government is printing money, maybe you're the fool. I don't know what that is. Don't have hate on you, Mick. I don't know what that is, but more debt than anyone in the country, really. Look, Hayden, I actually think that I do have more debt than anyone personally. The reason why I say that I've got more debt than anyone else in the country is I don't know too many people that have $18 million worth of debt. The people that have debt or access to the debt, they're mainly corporations and institutions. So a lot of institutional investor, when someone goes to take on a new project, they raise money via funds or investor capital or whatever the case may be. But yeah, like I know how finance works. I know. Tell me how much income someone would need to have in order to go get $18 million worth of debt today. Who would have the balls? People were laughing. So they were like, good luck to this guy, right? He's, to the brewery, right? To the pub, right? This guy's got the balls to, take on that amount of debt. Not many people do have the ability to do so. So that's why I need to know how it works. So, Jono, hey Nathan, what's your thoughts on Brent Johnson's milkshake theory? The milkshake theory, I've heard of it. I need to come back to you on that, mate. I need to come back to you. I'm going to go and do a bit more research into that. I need something to do when I go for my walk shortly, so I'll come back to you on that a little bit later. I'll text you back as well from my message before. Jason, hey bro, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Adam Presti, what's up, bro? Hope you're doing well, mate. Parminda, hi. Marwan, hi. Luke, wouldn't worry about the news comments. You're the one growing your balance sheet. Exactly, right? There's so many people with their opinions, right? Especially through this time, whether it be, your colleague, your family member, your spouse, your friends, whatever the case may be. People will have their opinions. I know, how I live my life. I know the person of character I am. I know the things that I do and the good deeds that I try to do out there. And I know, I know my game. I know what I'm working with. I'm not some person with an opinion that's trying to inflict an opinion back to someone else's views. I just do what I need to do. I've got a goal. I've got clarity on where I'm going. And I remember when I was younger, there was this, in a job that I was working, it was in an office, and I had this plaque on the wall. It sat above my desk. It was just by, chance that it sat there. And I said, the world stand aside for the person who knows where they're going. And when you have clarity, you have strategy, you have a plan, that's when, shit really works and goes together. And over the years, whether it be throughout business or whether it be throughout investing, there's been challenges, adversity, and having clarity has been what's able to be able to push through all that. So, yeah. Josh, looking well. Thanks, mate. I think maybe it's the collar, the long sleeve shirt. I'm not going to go too classy and have cufflinks and all that. That stuff went out in the 2008, 2009, when I quit my job a decade ago. But yeah, I just thought I'd wear a bit of a kit up to set standard in my organisation. Michael, a bit. It's someone that's it's a pretty funny message, mate. It's in-house jokey with it, mate. Trolled the trolls. I did troll the trolls. Do you expect BTC to boom? And what about the stock market? Talked about this extensively. I'm going to say it within 30 seconds why I'm not invested in the stock market at the moment. In short, we have not seen the annual reports come out on all the companies out there. Later on this year, when we start seeing the annual reports coming out of tax returns and whatnot for these organisations, reporting in July, August, September. Around September, October, November, they're going to be reporting all their losses for the years, and that will overflow into a lot of people realising that the investments that they've got are not going to be paying them any returns anytime soon. The business is going to be financially screwed and insolvent, and people will be fleeing the stock market. There will be shocks in the stock market around that September, October, November period. In my opinion, no financial advice is to be given. I'm just a bit of a crazy guy, an eccentric guy out there that talks about research in the marketplace. But that's my view on the stock market. I think later part of this year we will see the real true after effects of what's happening out there in the economy. Some companies will do really well, some will be in a lot of trouble as well. Do I expect BTC, for those of you that don't know what BTC is, that's Bitcoin, do I expect to see it grow? I'm very heavily invested. I've been invested in the cryptocurrencies for 5 years or so now. A mate of mine, I was at the pub, I used to drink, and occasionally I drink now, like maybe once every now and then in a blue moon. But I was at the pub, I was talking to a mate, and I need to drink some water. Palate's getting dry. And my mate said to me, there's this thing, and you can use it, you can go buy drinks with it, and whatever. I said, go buy a beer. I don't even drink, I've never drank a beer, I vomit from my first sip of it. And he goes, you go buy beer for him. Go buy a beer, show me what it is. And I was like making fun of the bloke, saying it was like barter card and whatnot. And silly enough, like a few months later, I saw him, he sold his Bitcoin. He was doing a build at the time, he was building a property. He's a client of mine, and I was saying, look, you're short 10 grand, you need 10 grand, you got this stupid shit, you've doubled your money, sell it off. And he sold it off, and it was in the hundreds, a few $100s that Bitcoin was at the time. I saw it doubled within 6 months, and then I was like, what the hell is this? I went and threw like $500 into it, and I threw another $500 into it, then I saw it double overnight, and I was like, wow, what the fuck is this Bitcoin stuff? And I realized maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I was talking to one of my mates, which is Ridwan. Ridwan is my accountant, and from One Path Accountants, and I'll be doing a webinar with him tomorrow night. The link is in the description here, and I'll be getting tax advice and pre-tax advice and things that you can look out for, and answering some questions and answers and whatnot for you guys. So if you would like to get access to Ridwan, just click on the link and register yourself for tomorrow night. I think there's about 500 people already registered for tomorrow night's webinar. But I was talking to him many years ago about the possibility of creating a currency, because we're going to see the death of the currency, which is very similar to what we're seeing at the moment. There is one more cycle. I will keep saying there is one more cycle left of the currency. And I said, imagine if I could create this currency which was verifiable, and I was talking about having metal, like precious metals like gold and silver, on weighted shelves. I'll charge 20% tax to get into it, so you could own 20% of the system, and it would be decentralized and whatnot. And it was a great idea, but I never did anything with it, right? And then the day that I bought this cryptocurrency many years later, and then I was like, what the fuck did I buy? I didn't even know what it was. And I was like, wow, this has actually got the ability to change humanity and create peace and freedom like never seen before, without manipulation, without wars, without control, without shifts of power, but also be very capital based, where there is potential to make profits, and the ability to grow, and the ability to build wealth with this as a system. And I remember seeing that there was a video from Obama, right? Obama Bitcoin speech, maybe type into YouTube, and he talks and he says, Bitcoin is the ability to have a Swiss bank account in your pocket. And I want to clarify, and I don't think that we're going to see Obama watching my videos, a war criminal watching my videos. Who would expect that would see that? But let's assume we do see a war criminal watching this, and we see Obama watching Barack Obama, that old president that used to be in, watching this video. He said that it would be like having a Swiss bank account in your pocket. And I really always would love to meet the guy and clarify it with him, because having a Swiss bank account, it is not like having a Swiss bank account in your pocket. It is like having a whole Swiss bank in your pocket. You can create so much within cryptocurrency and within Bitcoin. You can be your own bank. If we look at the world, the population of the world, there's 21 million people. There's like 10 billion people, but there's only 21 million Bitcoin ever available, and they will run out of printing in making Bitcoin, a new Bitcoin coming into circulation in the year 2140. So there's a long time for these to slowly drip, and every 4 years there's less and less Bitcoin being mined. It works on a principle very similar to how gold would work. It's like a digital gold for those of you that don't know what Bitcoin is like. And there's so many people in this world which are unbanked. There's people that have no ID. There's like half the world's population doesn't have a driver's license. They don't have a bank account. They don't have an ID. They don't have a birth certificate. And the crypto network, especially Bitcoin, for example, you can create applications and uses on top of these protocols to be able to like emit value of change and transfer of change of wealth from one to another with a click of a button with a bit of technology. You could have a child in Africa that would have the same opportunity as an adult in a first world country like Australia or the US or whatever the case may be. So, sorry, just running out of palate in my mouth. Palate in my mouth. Your mouth has a palate. Saliva. So the opportunity there for what it can do, I expect we will see a lot of growth in the crypto space. I keep seeing a lot of crypto questions popping up, Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies. One of the things that we all need to take into fact and thoughts. One is a very common question. Will Bitcoin, will banks adopt it? Will companies adopt it? Will anything adopt it? Banks are never going to adopt Bitcoin. Wall Street's never going to adopt Bitcoin. Cryptocurrencies, no. There is a potential there for them to make a digitalized, screwed up sort of, fake version of it, like futures and ETFs of it, which are starting to, and they've got out there. However, physical, they will never touch because it is going to collapse their system. But the opportunity that survives around Bitcoin is that the more currency they print off, right, the more money that is printed from the central bank, the more that's going to trickle down and go through the system. So let's assume if everyone got $1,000 check today from the government, right? What are you going to spend your $1,000 on? You're going to spend your $1,000 on buying a new pair of shoes. Are you going to spend your $1,000 on paying the groceries? Are you going to spend your $1,000 on paying some bills? You're going to spend your $1,000 on putting in your bank account and saving for a rainy day and being able to buy less stuff in the future. Are you going to spend your $1,000 on buying a new TV? Are you going to spend your $1,000 on buying some Bitcoin? If you were to buy Bitcoin, the less and less of it's out there, the more that it will rise in value against fiat currency. So the more money that they're printing, the quicker that it can actually kill itself. So in the later parts of the system that we're in, I foresee that cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and the like, such as altcoins, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, EOS, these are going to be like ballasts throughout the system, and there could be really good opportunities with them, and that's why I'm invested into them. I've got over 6 figures in them, and to the point where I had multiples into 7 figures. I've never sold crypto, however, I still hold all of it, and I've got some very good projects within crypto space. So, and different types of projects like physical metal-based projects. When I mean metal, I mean hardware. I have data facilities where I mine cryptocurrency and whatnot. So very, very heavily invested into the space and see a big future for it. Nikki, second that question above, I think you're talking to that. What kind of income do you need to get into property? As far as income, I have people that are on 50 grand a year buying property. I have people on 40 grand a year buying property. On average, most of my investors that get like 10, 12, 15 properties will be on about 80 grand income starting, could get them to like 3, 4 or 5 properties, up to 120, 150 grand couple combined income. Most of my investors are not, high-end people. They're just everyday Aussies. That's why I talk as I talk, and I work with that sort of market as my prime market of investors that I help out. So incomes between 40 and a couple of $100 grand a year, that'll build you a nice property portfolio. Obviously, the more that you can earn, the more that you'll be able to invest in. Jason, this is the bloke I was talking about. Hopefully good things, bro. Andrew, I'll donate $10 if we get you in a tie next week. $10. Donate $10. I actually have my tie. Give me 2 seconds. This is my tie from yesterday. I can tie it up. So sort of, for those of you that tuned in earlier and those who aren't on now and they come back later, we're going to have a tie on. So donate $10 to whoever, but I'll put a tie on just for the laugh. Do note that this tie was on a white shirt yesterday. I don't know how it's going to look on this shirt, but it was a nice tie, so I had to buy it. So next question. I'd like to know about the grants and stimulus package. Rochelle, I did talk about that a lot beforehand. I'm assuming that I have covered that now for you. Next question is, why does the Australian dollar keep rising against the other major currencies? The reason being is not that necessarily that the Australian dollar is rising, it's more so that the other currencies are falling. So for example, the US dollar might be falling in comparison to the, here you go, got a tie on now guys, got a tie like a boss, the boss man. I can tie this up too. Yeah, so it's not necessarily that the Aussie dollar is rising, it's that the other currencies are falling. So there we go. Little tie, little boss. People say I can't look dapper. People think I'm a bogan. People think that I'm from back of Western Sydney. Anyway, we'll be gangster and wear a tie too. Benjamin, hey Nathan, random question. From an event I heard you talking about years ago, did you end up suing your property manager that didn't insure your property that burnt down? That case is still going on. Those people are still shit scared. What a lot of people don't realise, I'll put my tie on, like boss man. Yeah, so I had a property many years ago where the property manager was managing it for 10 years, didn't pay the insurance for me 1 year, had a property burned down and 2 others get destroyed. Ultimately, I'm out of pocket hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've got them on multiple different breaches, and every time they talk, they actually violate and are fabricating evidence. And I've now turned that person to be, or that company to be, into an actual fraud case as well. So I've got them all to different fronts, but some of these things don't take. You know, when someone fucks up real bad and you've got to sue them, this may take many years to be able to sue them, but it's very slow. And I've got a few of my close colleagues that work for me and whatnot say I'm the chess master, because I work on things and work very, very slow, and ultimately wait for the time to attack. And I've got a law firm which we met, Stephen Sidorowski from Zenith Legal, the other week. If you guys haven't got your wills yet, or not, go get yourself sorted. But also have corporate counsel, which basically just go around suing people as well, which do bad things, which you need to, like having so much. Like there's so many. If I didn't go and collect, there's many times where I left money sitting on the table or whatnot. So yeah, I'm still in the process of suing. Francesco, do you follow? Do you have a course for buyer's agent? Do I have a course for buyer's agency? I don't do a course on how to be a buyer's agent. However, I do have a mentoring program out there where I share a lot of my information that's made me an investor over the years, and the things that I've learned over the years. It's very cheap. It's out there at the moment if you'd like to get access to it. I think it's like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 for the course. There's about 100 hours. A lot of stuff is about news, very similar to what we're talking about before this occurred, and my predictions of what would be happening now. But there's also, 80% of it is based on what I've done and how to build a successful property portfolio. Steve, who's getting 2% rates? You know how many boxes you have to tick. I'm actually getting a 2.2% interest rate at the moment with Big Four Bank. Not that I'm purchasing it under my personal name. I'm getting someone else to carry it as a surrogate parent for a property, which has a good position. So, I've looked at, I can keep buying properties. I buy my properties cash, but why not build other portfolios using other people as well? So how am I going to get to, 200 properties to 300 properties to 400 properties to 500 properties to 2,000 properties? You've got to be strategic with it. But there is people getting out there. Like I did get one recently. It should be through any day. Just finalising it, which will probably be about $2 million loan for property at a 2.2 or very close to that sort of rate. So if you guys, as I said before, and if someone has a mortgage and it's not with me, reach out and I can get my team to help you with your finances. Travis, I know you can't give financial advice. I love giving non-financial advice though, but do you have someone who can recommend or suggest to speak to? I'd like to have at least borrowing power assessment done, single income. Also want to make sure I leave myself able to somehow buy more properties in the future, even if this is something I have to work towards. Travis, I help out thousands of investors. I try and be as available as I can to people to help them out achieve their goals and dreams. If you would like, flick us an email, send me an email, send my team an email at admin@binvested.com.au and ask, just put in there, could I speak to one of your finance people? And also, it might be worthwhile having a map session. So basically, a map session is where I help people, give them strategy and feedback and guidance to get that portfolio built personally. So it's $499. I've got to put the $499 on it just to protect my time from people. Everyone wants to chat to me for free and whatnot. So $499 for an hour. Where I can work out a strategy for you. So if you'd like, when you email my office at admin@binvested.com.au, ask if you can do a map session. I can help you work out that strategy that's going to help you, reach your goals and give you some non-financial advice. So that could work and be an option for you as well, where we can work interactively one-on-one and build out this plan of attack. Many house and land packages will increase the same amount as the government stimulus out, i.e. 20 to 50 grand. Benny, and for everyone else there, that will be a case where they will, the stimulus packages, house and land prices will rise due to the fact of the stimulus packages. However, I don't think the 50 grand comes out as a stimulus package. Imagine that as just being a small fraction of it. I think that will put rocket fuel in the market and we'll see those new house and land packages skyrocket. The developers will be pocketing more money. There will be an whole lot of developers out there. They've actually stopped selling properties. They've started to take properties out of the marketplace because they want to capitalise on this time. If they can make an extra 50 grand or 100 grand per property, they can already foresee what's going to happen in the market as well. They're going to be making a big killing out of this because people are going to be spending a lot more money to try and capture their 20 or 50 grand. For me, it's not a matter of buying those new properties, getting 20 or 50 grand, whatever the stimulus package is. It's more about seeing what gets dragged up in the vortex of the market with that. I'd rather buy 5 instead of buying 1 house and land package per se. Buy 5 second-hand properties. If they go up by 50 grand, there's 250k you make. So there's different. It's important to have a good strategy around it because there's different ways to be able to take advantage of it. How can I reinvest successfully without paying too much in tax? I have one property almost paid off, PPOR, and I'm not sure if I should just pay the loan down so I can use that rental income to cover the rent for me to live in a much nicer place. From what I've heard, I'm going to get taxed on the rental income after expenses. Other investors rent-vest and wonder how they do it. Jane, it might pay for us to have a map session, a strategy session, because having one property almost paid off isn't necessarily the wisest thing, and it's cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with paying off your property and whatnot, but having a strategy that could be more beneficial to help you get to your long-term goals, minimising risk along the way, could be much more beneficial on that front. I could sit here today and say, look, I've got 3 properties or 5 properties. They're all paid off. I bought the first one for 200 grand, paid it off. Second one I paid 300 grand, paid it off. Third one I paid 400 grand. Fifth one I paid 500 grand or 600 grand, and I'm still trying to pay it off. That could be my story. Or I could be sitting here saying, well, I bought 200 properties, I bought 10 of them for 200 grand, and now worth 500, 600, 700 grand, and I can sell off two and pay out the debt. So there's different structures and strategies. Buying one, paying it down, buying the second one, paying it down. Understanding how the currency works, understanding how the monetary system works, you realise that debt is a very strategic tool, a much needed tool out there to get ahead. It's purely just from a leveraging perspective, but yeah, with it, happy to have a chat to you and give you some advice on that front. Hit us up. Paul, Westpac are going all out with their fixed rate home loan adverts, which tells me they won't be going up accordingly to Westpac. Exactly. When was the last time that you saw the fixed term rates being cheaper than the variable rates? The only reason being is that the rates are actually going to go down. So yeah. Hey Nathan, if the interest rates go from 5% to 2.5%, and the house price goes from 800 grand to 1.6 million, the interest rate payments would remain the same, but the principal would be twice as much over the period of time. Wouldn't this be a problem for people in terms of being able to repay? Could the banks introduce new products such as 50%, 50 or even 100-year home loans soon, or we could have to wait for wages to increase? Good point. Dan, going back to my strategy beforehand, this is a question about it. Looking at that strategy that we're talking about here, the market has basically done that in the last decade. That's where we're sitting at, here today. That's why prices are so high, because interest became so cheap. The cost of money became so cheap. And it's not the properties that went up, it was the fact that you need more of that currency now to buy that same property. Those places have nothing going on anyway. Keep up the good work. They have perfected Keynesian economics. We'll never have a Great Depression. Exactly. The very big difference between the Great Depression in 1920s to where we are here in the 2020s is that we print a hell of a lot more money than what they ever do back in the day. Troy, any indications on what the property market prognosis is for the Gold Coast moving forward, say the next 12 months? Any projections being thrown around? I don't like to get into speculating and stuff like that. However, I'm very bullish in the Gold Coast market. I've been there for the last 4 or 5 years, picking up properties very actively. There will become a point where I retract from the market. I have not retracted yet. I'm still very bullish on that, and I own probably 40 properties on the Gold Coast myself. When do you think the property markets will skyrocket? 1, 2, 3 or 5 years? I think that over the course of the next 12, 24 months, people are going to be very cautious and reluctant to purchase in the market. Activity is going to happen. The market will sort of chug along, do its thing, but it's not going to go crazy. But when people start seeing this money trickle down and there's money floating around, that's when we're going to see the real takeoff. And when lending abilities relax, that's when we're going to start seeing the next boom. So I'd probably think somewhere in the next 24, 36 months is when we're going to start to see the real part of the boom, and that'll occur for the next 3 years after that, 4 years after that. Cameron, if we're going to eventually see hyperinflation of the currencies in palliative care, is it worthwhile buying gold and silver? Good question. Gold and silver does not bring cash flow. There's people still waiting from 1980s when they bought. In 1980, silver price was $80 an ounce. Currently, silver is in Aussie dollars, or in the US. US is less than 20 bucks an ounce, and Aussie dollar is about 30 bucks an ounce. So there's a lot of people out there spruiking for precious metals. I believe that precious metals are artificially suppressed via the COMEX and keeping the prices artificially low. I do own gold and silver. I am a big fan of gold and silver, but that's only as a balance. So I don't buy it as an investment per se. I just hold on to the gold and silver purely as a ballast. If we do start seeing hyperinflation and we start seeing the cost of metals and they do separate from their paper contract price, then I can sell that off and pay down my debt. So that's the only reason why I invest in that. It doesn't bring cash flow. It doesn't go up in value because it's artificially manipulated. So I think it's important. Reason why I call the business B.Invested and not, Birchie's property investments or whatever is due to the fact that I'm an investor fundamentally. Property is one of my favourite vehicles. It is my favourite vehicle, but I do invest in many other sort of assets and financial instruments. Taylor, these properties you were talking about, having purchased recently, are they all townhouses and units? I do pick up properties that are houses. I picked up one the other day for someone for $205,000 in Brisbane. Rents out for $300 per week. Pick up properties at all different price ranges, all different types, shapes, sizes, blocks of units, blocks of land, houses, townhouses, units individually, sometimes some other weird sort of properties. Average sort of prices would be around, that 150 to 350 in capital cities. I do purchase large ticket items like in the $5, $6, $7, $800,000 price range and beyond. The largest property that I purchased this year was over $6 million for someone. Average one's probably like 300, 400,000 purchase price. Joseph, do you recommend 10% deposits, a neutral positive year, and get the number of properties, or go 20% deposit? Good question. A lot of people asking me, should I buy a property using a 20% deposit or 10% deposit, split it up? You've got to understand how the back ends of the banks work. I personally, am a big fan of using 20% deposits. The reason being is that you can go back and you have more freedom of choice at the bank. So Joseph, if you'd like, maybe have a chat to one of my finance strategists. The finance guy said, if you use a 10% deposit, it might be great. You can get into 2 today. But I look at the long game, right? I look at the strategy. I look at the structure of building out that portfolio and what is it going to mean for me to be able to, progress. If I am using, sort of a 10% deposit, you don't have the ability to go and purchase more properties and get that equity out. If you use a 20% deposit, you've got a better chance of being able to rip that equity out and restructure your debt to be able to maneuver at the back end of the banks to be able to move on to your next one. Because when you're stuck at the 10% deposit, that's all you can do. When you've got a 20% deposit, if the bank says no, we don't want to lend to you, but the next bank says, yep, we'll give you a higher valuation, then you can just pick up your property and revalue and refinance it to another bank that will look after you and give you that extra equity out and be able to progress further. Do note that a lot of brokers will not fuck around with being able to refinance loans for smaller amounts because they have to do a lot more work and they don't actually get paid for. They don't get paid for doing those refinances to pull out the equity and extract the equity. So. Make sure that you structure the finance correctly. If you need help structuring your finance, right? I don't have 200 properties by luck or by chance. It's all on purpose and all by strategy. Happy to help out and get my team to help you on that front. Dave, very good question. What do you think of pulling out 10 grand this and next financial year out of super? The government have allowed us to do so to invest in property. A lot of people are pulling their money out of super. To do so. I cannot give financial advice on that front because I'm not a financial advisor. Might look like one now that we've got my tie on for everybody. For those of you that is checking in now, I was dead $10 to put a tie on. I have a tie sitting there and I don't want the $10. Donate it to a charitable cause. That'd be great. However, I put the tie on. I might look like a financial advisor. I may look a little bit more proper now. What are my thoughts on that? Look, my father died at the age of 62. He didn't get a chance to retire. He was working when he died and he had a heart attack. And I've always been a big fan of, I'd rather have access to my capital now rather than the future. That's my personal viewpoint. However, you need to look at all the factors that are there because it can, if you're not strategic enough and you're not investing enough and whatever, a lot of people should be leaving their money in their super. Do note that if you do pull out your super fund, 10 grand, that the banks are looking upon this and frowning upon it badly, and a lot of people are not being able to get loans because they've qualified for financial relief. So if you're qualifying for financial relief from your super fund, you're either lying to your super fund or you're lying to the bank that you're not that bad. So the banks are declining loans where people are pulling out that 10 grand from their super. So do be mindful of it from that front. Brendan, buy or build. Personally, I like buying established properties. Building properties sometimes is cool. Maybe in the future, I might be talking about building properties again. I did talk very heavily on buying and building properties, going back 2 years ago, because it's the right thing, or 3 years ago, sorry, it was the right thing at the time. But in this marketplace, I'm trying to capture as much assets that I can collect as possible, and building is going to slow you down from taking advantage and capitalising on this current market. Sparkles. If rates are going negative, shouldn't we consider pausing interest payments until they do? Good question. Are the banks going to hand down negative at the bank level? Who knows? But if you are just pausing your interest rate repayments, that means that interest is getting capitalised. So you're still going to be paying for that. So let's say you've got a 100 grand loan and you've got a 5% interest rate. It's $5,000 a year. $5,000 a year divided by 12 months would be 400 and 400. Let's say 420. Brain's not that active right now. Maybe $416, $420 a month. That time that you're, let's say 6 months worth of interest rate pausing would be $2.5 grand. If you pause your mortgage for 6 months, that means that your mortgage from $100,000, you should have paid $2.5 grand over 6 months. It means your loan's now $102,500. They're just capitalising that interest and putting it onto your loan. So you're still going to be paying it. It's just that, and it's compounding in the back end. It just means that the interest, that you'd be paying for that interest that you didn't pay would be negative or lower. So ultimately, I haven't done this yet. I've thought about it a lot. If I pause, my mortgages, I'm paying about $100,000 a month in interest across my portfolio. Over 6 months, that means I would be saving $600,000. I wouldn't need to go to the bank to get the equity out. I would just be able to, keep that $600,000 and go buy some more cash flow producing assets. So I will be doing that at one point, but I just haven't done it yet. So, Sparkles, missed your thoughts on the similar. Do you think it will be available for investment properties, holiday homes, or just new builds and home purchases? I believe it will be only on new builds and not on any other sort of investment. However, it will suck the whole market up in an orderly, sound like a weatherman in an orderly fashion. But I think that we'll see the whole market move in a fashion with we're seeing stimulus packages being done to new homes, because people will see new homes go up so much, and then we'll start seeing, so the developers will be the ones that are winning. The big end of town will be the ones that are winning out of the new house and build packages. So unless you're the big end of town, or unless you can make yourself the big end of town, you're not going to be benefiting that much from getting that rebate. But if you're holding second-hand properties, those properties will jump, because people are like, well, I'm not paying so much for a new one, I'll just buy a second-hand one, and then that market will catch up in a boom. Michael, shares or property in short term? I have no paper assets at the moment, and I have a lot of property. So I have other assets as well, but I'm not invested in the stock market at this point in time. Mesh, every Tuesday, I feel like I'm going to buy property. Awesome, bro. Awesome. I saw your email. I haven't had a chance to get to it because I've just been under the pump with hustling, man. So, well, I'll reply to you shortly. Andrew, hey mate, if we get heaps of inflation in a couple of years, how will the RBA bring that under control? Interest rates. If we see massive inflation, we will see the currency die along with it, most likely, and ultimately we will see the interest rates go up in the future. The interest rates will go up, but I don't believe that will happen any time in the short-term future. The last time we've had an interest rate rise was in 2010. It's been 10 years since we've had an interest rate increase here in Australia. Marwan, I have a friend with 5+ investment properties, told his boss where to go and start a new company 8 months ago. He has a good amount of savings, approached the banks to buy a loan to buy more properties, but then they refuse because the company is new. He has a significant amount of savings. What do you recommend? No financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, can't give financial advice. However, there's different ways of structuring that debt. What I would suggest is flick me an email, private message, put him in contact. My team is admin@binvested.com.au. I run a firm called Zinger Finance. It's a very large scale, sophisticated investor sort of lending. where we help people build those large portfolios. It doesn't matter if you've got one property, if you've got no property, starting out, or got 20 properties. My guys, help people get to the 20 properties. There's different ways of structuring the loans, and everybody's position is different. I'd have to put him in contact, or she in contact with them to have a look at their position. There is sort of products out there and things that can help out. So don't always think that the worst. If you can't get the answer you want today, always keep asking and try and seek the truth and seek the answer that you're looking for. Jason, how's your 2020 resolution going? In particular, your diet, stay healthy. Thank you. I've been eating really well. Obviously, I'm quite chubby at the moment. However, pretty good. Like, I've been walking regularly. I've been. I don't eat fast food. I used to eat a lot of Macca's and KFC and all that sort of shit. My skin's better. I'm feeling a lot healthier and whatnot. So from a diet perspective, I'm eating well, but for some reason I'm putting a little bit of weight. So yeah. Simone, my dad wants to buy a house in the near future and thinks that if he puts up the money in an account controlled by the bank, he can use that as security for the loan in the company's name. Have you heard of this? They used to do it many years ago when he worked in the bank, but I'm not sure they would these days. It just depends. I haven't heard of that, but sometimes people use a security swap where they will substitute your security. Instead of having a loan against a house, they'll have a loan against the money. So it could be a possibility. If you'd like, I can get your father to have a chat with one of my senior sort of finance strategists, which can give some feedback and some light on that situation if it is possible or not. Michael, I have plenty of equity but no income. How can I start property investing? Depending on your position, lots of variables out there. If you'd like to flick my office a message, I can have a look over your portfolio personally and just even get them to reply and say, look, this is what Nathan's thoughts are, and put you in contact with the right people to see what we can do. I've seen people on 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand start buying properties. I remember I had an apprentice, Sparky, a few years ago, who got to 5 properties in his apprenticeship. So anything's possible. Back over to Instagram. So Joseph, who's your senior finance analyst? It is my personal broker. Her name is Rose. She has written about 80% of my personal loans myself, and as of recently, she is heading up my team at Singer Finance. So yeah, happy to put you in contact with Rose if you'd like. What questions we've got here? Will you be wearing pants? I've got pants on at the moment, and I prefer to wear pants. Sometimes I don't wear pants, but I always wear pants when I'm doing Facebook Lives. Apart from when I did the live in the bathtub at the start of the year, I did a Facebook Live from the bathtub where I was absolutely naked. So get that image out of your head, guys and girls. Adam, how soon can someone pull out equity from recent property purchase to buy another property? Good question. The person I was referring to beforehand that bought their first one in March and is now up to 4 properties, she settled on a property on a Thursday, spoke to her on the Saturday, wished her well, and I was like, fuck, I remember we can pull out some equity for her. I sent an email as I was chatting to her. On the Monday, we refinanced the property. Purchase price was $200,000. We refinanced it for $255,000. Pulled out $44,000 worth of equity within 2 days of settling the property. So yeah, you can pull it out quick, smart, as long as you're buying well and you've got the right structuring in your finance. Need to bring in more money. I'm thinking about getting another job. I've been told it's not worth it because of the tax. What do you think? Any bit of hustle counts. If you earn money, you're going to pay taxes. There's no way around that. You can try and minimise your tax. But some random question here. But yeah, with it, from a tax perspective, you've got to pay taxes, then so be it. But a lot of people fear that they're going to get paid 50% tax. Like if you've got a job at 40 grand and you get another job for 40 grand, you don't pay 50% tax on the extra 40 grand. you'll be paying tax on a marginal tax rate of 80 grand, whatever that tax rate would be, up to the 80 grand, not 40 grand or 40 grand. They'll calculate in the way when you do your tax return. And that's actually a very good question for those of you that haven't subscribed. There is a webinar happening tomorrow night with me and Ridwan Hannon from One Path Accountants, my accountancy firm. If you are not on there and not registered for it, make sure that you turn up. I might actually throw the tie on again for those of you that like wearing a tie. I'll just put it on just for the fun, guys, in the middle of this live. But I will be holding that tomorrow night so we can talk about it and ask the accountant there. Said, we question, why do you still shave? I don't know, I shave my beard, I shave my face, I shave everywhere. Too much information, but I don't like hair. Fortunate enough, I've got a lot on my head. But yeah. I remember when you were 17, you were always very focused and had a goal. Awesome, thanks. I don't know who that is. I can just see the code name, but thanks and appreciate. I did grow a big beard a few years ago. That feels so awesome online, but I like the beard. It was good, but it wasn't for me. What about Dogecoin? I actually made, like, one of my first crypto trades ever. I made so much money on Dogecoin. It was like the shittest coin ever. It was just a meme of a dog, and yeah, it's a coin out there. I don't own any, but you know, people try and trade it and whatnot. I've mined it before and purchased it before and whatnot, but yeah. Bobby, love the content. Thanks for the shout out, bro. I appreciate that. I just do it for you guys. Beck, what do you think about taking the super out? I covered that just a few moments ago. There is pros and cons to it. If you'd like, if anyone here would like, I can put you in contact with one of my financial advisors that can give some more advice on that front. Josh, do you only invest in major capital cities? Predominantly, if one person is building a property portfolio, foundation portfolio, strongly look at capital cities. However, I do purchase little properties that are cheap. Like I just did a deal today, which was $14,750. I've got 5 blocks of land in a regional town. These things where the council rates are valuing the blocks of land at $30,000. So yeah, with it, I do buy in regional towns, but I need to get them for cents on the dollar. Basically, any of you with a Bitcoin, you can swap for a block of land today. So yeah, if you're interested, hit up my team. I really like answer being a trespasser. Very good way of looking at how to approach things strategically. I appreciate that. What would be the best way to invest in good sum of money at this time? Depends, personal situation. Everybody's position is different. Some people could be at a later part of their life. Some people could be at an earlier part of their life. Some people could just be starting out. Different levels of risk that could be factored into the equation. Everybody's position is different. So if you do want to shoot over your position, I can have a look over it. My team can have a look over it, and we can give you some guidance and feedback on how you can best take advantage of the opportunities out there at the moment. Lots of people waving, appreciate. Johnny, love your strategy, love your joining on this evening and being a part of this. Need to know if you are wearing flip-flops. I have got no shoes on at the moment. There's my foot. I've got no shoes on at the moment. I made a goal this year not to wear shoes not even once this year. So I do not wear shoes. I just wear flip-flops, thongs. Thongs if you're in New Zealand, jandals. Thongs are different over there. How many well-invested properties would you say you need to be financially independent? Very, very good question. The property is purely just a vehicle to get you from where you are to where you want to be. I always break it down. It's very important. A lot of people think, I want to have 10 properties, I want to have 2 properties, I want to buy a house and build a granny flat on or whatever. I have 200 properties. I own 1 with a granny flat. I was talking to someone earlier today that asked, how much would it cost to build a granny flat and put on your backyard? They said, 120 grand. I'm like, 120 grand? I'd go buy you 2 townhouses that used to sell for 500,000 for 70,000 each or 80,000 each. And those 2 townhouses will bring in, $200 a week each. I'd rather purchase a new asset rather than overcapitalising on one existing property. But in order to build a property portfolio, if you want to have a $50,000 a year income, $50,000 divided by 52, say $967 or whatever it would equate to, but let's say $1,000 a week that you would need in order to, was I right with that guess? It was straight out of the top of my head. But say $1,000 a week. Let's say your average rent is $250 per week or $300 per week. You would need about 4 properties unencumbered outright to retire on $50,000 a year. How would you get 4 properties owned outright unencumbered? You could buy 8, watch them double, sell off half, pay out the other half, and have 4 unencumbered properties. If you want to have $100,000 a year, well, then you just double that. It could be 7 properties that are bringing you in that sort of rental amount. So it's important to work backwards and reverse engineer. That's what I do for my investors. Lots of finer details in order to do you need 4 properties? Do you need 6? Do you need 8? Do you need 10? Do you need 12? How many do you sell? How many do you buy? What's your strategy moving forward? How do you leapfrog between each acquisition? What do you do to overcome the hurdles at the bank and different steps along the way? If you do need help, reach out to my team. Just saw here, Lucas, 961, what a good guess. Thank you. I like to be the human calculator. I need to think quickly when I'm calculating. Appreciate the calculating there for me. Johnny, are you still wearing flip-flops at the moment? I just put my foot up. I don't have any shoes on. I'm in the house. However, I made a goal that I'm only going to wear thongs this year and no shoes. I'm not wearing shoes at all this year. It doesn't matter where I'm going, what I'm doing. I've got 2 minutes left on Instagram. What are the best time? Where would you recommend to buy for best capital growth? Sydney, Brisbane, Gold Coast, along the eastern seaboard, and even in other states. Lots of capital city stuff. Now, if you'd like help on finding the properties, feel free to reach out, hit up the team. I help people buy properties and locate and negotiate these deals. Graham, do you think it's worth doing a residential development rather than buying the next existing, take advantage of the stimulus, considering this may tie up money due to the long-term time frame for the build? Personally, I'm not building on any of my sites at the moment. I'm still acquiring new assets. I will go back to my sites later on and build. What you've got to understand is also, what you've got to remember is also financing and being able to fund other projects. On here, about to run out of thing. Nathan, Contribution Society is amazing. You're a legend, man. I would nominate you for Nobel Prize or something, but that's all bullshit. Sheep will waking up. I appreciate that, Johnny. I appreciate everyone on Instagram tuning in this evening. I'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Maybe a couple of minutes late, maybe a couple of minutes early. But thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll catch up soon. If you need anything, hit up the team. Help you on all your investing needs. Catch up soon, guys. Bye for now. Guys on Facebook, about to end very shortly. I need to actually about to go walk and go for a walk with one of my mates. Actually, Ridwan, we're going to talk about our webinar and plan it for tomorrow evening. So if you're not registered for the webinar, make sure that you click on the link and subscribe to the webinar tomorrow evening, where you'll be meeting with myself and Ridwan, talking about tax strategies, investing strategies, and a bit more, less new stuff and more in-depth sort of courses and whatnot on it. So with it, last couple of questions. Joseph, that'd be great. I'd like to get in contact with Rose. What's the best way to do so? If you could flick an email over to my team, which is just admin@binvested.com.au, or flick a message here on Facebook. Reach out to my team. Just ask, can I speak to Rose, the senior, the head of Zima Finance. Rose is the head of Zima Finance. Just reach out to my team. They'll do an introduction and get you in contact to look at your position and see what we can do to help you build a kick-ass portfolio. The property that was bought for 200 grand, refinanced for 255, was that effectively 20% below market value, or bought as market value but just appraised at a higher value. I never buy properties at market value. Always have to buy them below market value. That property there, we're able to go back and pull out that equity only because the bank valued it higher. And that's due to the fact the bank they're always conservative when they value the properties. This was a 2-bedroom unit in a capital city, in a CBD, which has got massive growth at the moment. This actual town and suburb and city has massive growth. and it's only about 500 meters away from the ocean, and redevelopment potential, and also in a block of 6. So yeah. Taylor, Rose sounds like the woman to speak to. She is. She has been responsible for building, my portfolio and financing my goals and dreams. So if you'd like to, I only have the serious people in my team. Feel free to reach out, and they'll be able to help you out. And Rose is really, really great. Nathan, we're both dealt the same card with our dads and have a tough upbringing, but see, we've come over a decade of knowing you and say that as my mate. You've been great to me and my family, and it's heartfelt and true. Thank you for what you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate the warm words, and humbled to be a part of your journey and of your family life and being able to help you. And on that note, guys, thanks, Tommy. It's very nice, and nice way to leave this night's Facebook Live. So if you have any questions, anyone needs anything, reach out. You know where the team is, and we'll catch up next week. It has been a bit weird doing this Facebook Live because my whole screen is black. I can just see the comment section and nothing else on the screen. So if I'm off center from the camera or whatever, I apologise for that. But yeah, if you haven't subscribed to Birchfeed, it is free. Just go to birchfeed.com and make sure that you turn up to tomorrow night's webinar with Ridwan Hannon from One Path Accountants, give you some tax tips. We've got the government trying to rip us at every corner. And it's good to have the right team around you. You're only as strong as your team. If you could have, an accountant there to help save you being extorted money from the powers to be, Ridwan is here going to be giving his time, which will be an hour and a half of his time, giving you free strategies on how you can, take advantage of this tax season that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll catch up soon. Have a great evening. Bye for now, guys.